Okay.
Boom. All right. So because we're doing the obviously if you're using your iPhone like when I do my own videos,
Mhm.
then that's easier. But you're not doing that right now, so I'll start with the Zoom and then we can talk about iPhone if you want.
Mhm.
But so the challenge uh, with Zoom is when you record. This is what we recorded the other day for the board meeting.
Mhm.
So when you open QuickTime, you see you have this movie inspector window.
Mhm.
So it gives you all the information here. So you can see because I was recording from my 13-inch screen,
Mhm.
uh, the resolution of the video is actually 2804 by 1440.
Mhm.
So that's okay, kind of, right? But look at the colors and look at all that.
Mhm.
So it's not that great, and it's even though it's how long is this? I think it's about an hour.
Mhm.
Is only 260 megs, so it's very compressed. It's very small, and the quality of the video is actually what we call the data rate.
Mhm.
So the data rate is going to tell you, again, the quality. So you want to have for a 4K video, you want to have no less than 20 megabits per second.
Mhm.
For a 1080, anywhere between 15 to 20, it's okay. For 4K,
Okay.
at least 40. And then as far as FPS, frames per second, because we're doing webinars and things like that, anything 24 or 30 is perfectly fine. When you watch a movie, it is 24.
Mhm.
But if you're watching sports or we're moving a lot, then you probably want to make it 60
Mhm.
because in that way the movement is more smooth and it looks better. That's what video games play at 50, 60 frames per second.
Mhm.
Some of them now 120. But because the kind of content that we're doing is a non-issue. 24 to 30, you're perfectly fine, and also your files will be a little smaller. So here's where you know exactly the source of your video and what's going on. Now, so I when we do the video, I don't record. I do record the Zoom
Mhm.
because what Zoom does is it splits the audio from the video.
Mhm.
All right. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back as to why I use this audio in a second. So if you want to record the screen, you have this application here called a screenshot. For you, it's probably inside your utilities folder. I got it out. I took it out because I use it a lot. But you should have a utilities folder like this, and it should be somewhere in there. And so this is guy screenshot. So when you do screenshot, do you see this little window at the bottom?
Mhm.
Okay, so you can take a snapshot, so it's a photograph, or you can record the whole screen or a portion of the screen.
Mhm.
So on the options, you have some options. So if I record the full screen, it's gonna record the full screen at 30 frames per second, maximum quality, and it looks identical as what your eyes are seeing.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a bigger file, a much bigger file, but that's okay. Okay. I don't think do I have a yeah. So so when because the files are very large. Once I'm done with them, I move them to my server.
Mhm.
So let me go to my Mac Mini here, and then you can see the size.
Yeah. So are you actually running the Zoom recording and the screen recording at the same time so that way you have the separate audio file?
Exactly right. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So both are going at the same time. So QX Financial Video Series, QFFs, demographics. See. So let me open this guy, and you see now it's 59 megabits. So we went from 700 kilobits, so not even 1 megabit, to 59 megabits.
Mhm.
And obviously you can see the colors, obviously much better, right? And the resolution is my 13-inch resolution, 28 by 1800. That's fine because even if anything above 1080, it's okay. 1080
Mhm.
is high definition. If I really wanted to be 4K, then I will be recording my separate screen that is 4K because I have two monitors. But honestly, I don't need to because my camera is 720 anyway, which is the same as yours. The webcam is 720, so even if I make it 4K, it's gonna look the same. If I had a 4K camera, different story. But in this case, and also Turrell is using the iPad, Sonia is using the same as you, a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and Scoba is using a 720, 1080, and 1080. So again, the 4K won't make a difference.
And I mean, honestly, to me, this is just my preference. But if you see some of the 4K or very high resolution at very high FPS, whether it's a film or some sort of documentary, I just think it looks weird because it's just you know such a sharp image, and it's just so seamless, I guess. That it seems like it's unnatural, and you notice a lot of things that you would kind of take that you would just kind of not think about in like a movie. And it's like, wait a minute, why did that person do that thing that now I'm picking up and noticing?
Yeah, especially if you look at up close, right? You have to like go look farther, otherwise you start noticing artifacts. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And what happens with movies is that they're not really being filmed in 4K. Most movies are filmed in 720p, but then they have a word for it when they make them bigger, so they can. But actually they're recorded in 720 or sometimes even 1080. But yeah, so you have artifacts when they blow them to 4K resolution, so they look weird. I agree. What was gonna tell you? Yeah, so when you click on the inspector, that's so you know what file you're dealing with. So the other thing, when you record through the Apple screen, you're gonna get an MOV file, movie file, versus the
MP4.
the MP4. So the MP4 or MP or HEVC, all those are just containers, right? So don't worry too much about them because we're gonna blow them up, and I'll show you what I mean. So what Zoom does is an MP4. So what I'm gonna do with this higher quality file, this even though it's 848 gigabytes, right? So we went from 200, and this was only 20 minutes. So 20 minutes of a presentation became 8 gigabytes versus an hour for 200 megabytes. So because you have a lot of data, it gets bigger. We're gonna recompress it later, but you want a bigger file because you have more data, meaning you can do more color corrections, and it just looks better. Okay, or it looks as good as it's gonna look based on the Zoom and the webcams. So usually what I do from here, I want to convert this into a file that is called ProRes. And the reason why I want to do this is because your processor, my processor, this is compressed, and you can edit this way. But I don't know if you've ever been editing, especially when you edit Zoom files and the computer skip frames and struggles sometimes is going through stuff. If you've ever seen that, it's because the file is too compressed and it's taking too much effort of your processor to actually be able to edit it well. Now you have a 16-inch, so probably you notice less of that, but for mine sometimes can be noticeable because I have only 4 cores, you have 8, so you have twice as much. But still, it's not a good editing experience. So once you have your file that you want, the video file that you want to do in Finder, I go here, which says Finder, Services, Encode Video. And you're gonna get a menu with a bunch of options. You see Apple ProRes 422. When you click continue, for these files, it's gonna take about 40 minutes to convert from an MP4 container or MOV container to a ProRes container. So this 8 gigabyte file is gonna become like 170 gigabytes. It's gonna balloon, right? Now it's okay because then we're gonna make it smaller, but that's okay. But the reason again what I balloon it is because I want to have all the data that is being compressed, and I want to take it apart and get the real size of the file so I can edit it much easier, much smoother. And once I'm done, then I'm gonna compress it again, and it's gonna become actually smaller than the 8.4. Actually, let me show you one that I'm done with. So when I did the first Insurance Pulse Secrets, the one that went out on Friday, it was 9 gigabytes. I edited it, I did everything. Then I converted to HEVC, which is MP5 instead of MP4. It's called HEVC, and I went from 9 gigabytes to 3.28, and this one is 4K. right? So you're gonna compress it, but you need to have some space on your hard drive to make it really big, work on it, and then make it really small.
Mhm.
All right, so that's as far as the video. As far as the audio, the reason why I take the Zoom audio is because when I record on the screen, I'm using my microphone. So that's just the nature of a screen recording, is using the internal microphone. So when I do that, it's capturing all the noise. So if my maybe in the new Macs that are coming out, they won't have a fan, but because we have a fan, you can hear the shh, you know. So when the audio from Zoom is software based, so you don't get any shh like you get like what you get from screen recording.
Mhm.
So in summary, our video file, screen recording, audio file, Zoom. Okay. But if you open the audio file,
I'm gonna start recording now.
the audio is
wait.
flat. It's
Mhm.
okay.
That people can
You notice
utilize,
there's no
right?
hiss,
So Escobar, tell us more about what are those,
Yeah.
what are the products that
because
are
my Mac is
available
going,
for
shh,
most
you know,
people
because it's
right
doing
now
all
when
this
it comes
work,
to
but you don't
protecting
hear it.
yourselves. And I know you have a list with you.
But
Sometimes
again, it's flat. So the
Mhm.
first thing that I like to do is I take, you have GarageBand, right, in your Mac.
Mhm.
So we go to GarageBand. Okay, so this is the one from the other video, so I don't have to do it again.
and then we're good to go. So go ahead. Let's get started. Rolling. Actually, let me give it a little.
Oh no, this is something else. So I'm gonna go File, New, Empty Project, and and then it's gonna be an audio file. So I'm gonna put the microphone there,
Mhm.
and you're gonna get a regular, generic file. So then let's go back to the one that we recorded at the board meeting, the training. So I'm gonna take this audio from the training that is flat.
Is the second appointment. 975 to 9 for their 401k.
It's very flat, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna drag it here. And it's because it's an hour, it's gonna take a second. I'm gonna turn all this off.
Is the second appointment. You guys haven't done that with the exception of Terrell, I believe, and
Same thing, right?
Mhm.
So all I'm gonna do is click this, go to voice, and I like this narrational equalizing. And you see how the little things change.
and Ben, you probably done a bunch, but the way that I do.
So it sounds much better. So it has a little more rev, a little bit of compression. It's a subtle difference, but it sounds like I'm actually speaking off a microphone. So it sounds much better, even though I'm using my internal Mac microphone. So that's how I make it better. And also it's helping make the audio of the people that are in the Zoom call. It's also going to make it a little better.
Horrible. All her grandkids from our conversation last time.
Stop talking.
Conversation. Person was 20 decline, and she's gonna put 10. That's what you want to use are your numbers.
Oh, well, because it's a presentation that I was doing. Sorry, I thought it was the other meeting.
Just calling to make it.
Yeah.
You know where is that?
Both of my wife and I and my caregiver have all tested
it cleans
positive
it cleans
for
from the
virus,
headset. So it's just equalized better.
On top of everything else.
So that's what you have to do. Just click on
Yeah.
that and it does everything automatically. So once you're done, which we are done, now we have to export the file now with the new equalization. So you go what it says share, export sync to disk, and then you want to choose the AIFF. This is your own compressed file. It's also gonna get big, not as big as the other ones, but that's okay. You're gonna compress it later. So you don't wanna export compress because then when you edit it, you're gonna compress it again and you're gonna lose quality. So you wanna always edit on compressed files. So I'm just gonna put on my desktop for now. Click on export. And this one's gonna take a sec because it's an hour. I should have used the other one, but it's fairly fast. And I think the previous file is 46 megabytes. This is gonna be like 500 megabytes.
Okay.
So what bouncing means, it just means preventing those big skips. You see when you get like, oh, and it sounds weird because it's
Yeah.
too loud of a sound.
Peaking.
This is, put them in a how would you call it, like in a little tube. So
Yeah, within a band.
in a band, yeah. So you don't get those things.
Mhm.
Now, when I was working in studios, you had to do this manually.
Mhm.
So you had to be listening and be moving the thing,
Yep.
right? But the computer now they do it. So now everybody can be George Martin,
Yeah.
be a top producer. It's almost done.
Good on them. Somebody can start a business from home and make millions of dollars entertaining people and don't need to be beholden to a bunch of record companies that are looking to exploit people for their own personal gain.
Exactly right. Okay, so this is done. I just want to show you. So we went from 46 megabytes to 776 megabytes. So it blows up, but that's okay. We're gonna compress it later. Okay, so let me move this to trash. We don't need it anyway. And I don't need to save this. Okay, so now I got my big audio file and I got my really Apple ProRes video file. I won't show the Apple ProRes because it's gonna take 45 minutes to get done. But once you click on that, it's gonna take 45 minutes and 9 gigabytes. It's gonna become 127, 170. It's gonna become a really big file. And those are the files that you export to your iMovie.
Okay.
Okay, so questions on that? No? All right, so I'm gonna close my QuickTime and now we're gonna go to iMovie. So this is the one that I put out there yesterday. So because I have images and stuff, but this is my audio file. This is the one that is like 260 gigabytes. So just to show you. Now I use an external hard drive or SSD, which is the Samsung T7.
Mhm.
So I'm not editing from my Mac because I have limited space. So you see 337 gigabytes. It's a terabyte. It's 1 terabyte drive. So I do all my editing off that. So once I transfer the files, then you can erase them from your Mac or you can store them or whatever you do. So my raw basic files, I always save them for future reference. But the really big Apple ProRes files, I erase those. Once I'm done, I'm done.
Yeah, the basic files I've actually been mostly storing them on the Google Drive, but then actually started to get full up because it's just the 15 gigs. And so I've actually started moving them over to a YouTube file, YouTube channel that I just have everything unlisted. Is that going to affect things, do you think, over time? Or do you think just YouTube's just going to let me use that indefinitely as just free storage?
Yeah, no, it's free storage. The only thing is that if you ever need them, you have to download them. But yeah, it's free storage. Again, because I've been doing the computer for so long, I'm so used to having local storage. So I have my Mac Mini, which is my server, and I have a huge 8 terabyte hard drive plug into it. So I just dump all my old pictures, everything that I have since forever. I just dump it in there. As a matter of fact, I can show you. If I go to my Mac Mini, you say I have 3 hard drives attached to it. So this is the internal where I'm putting the most recent thing, and this is the external one. Here's where I have my mom files, my school files, every single thing I ever had since I started using computers is right here. All right, so and then I have usually my backup one, but here's where I put all my I dump all the videos. Once they're done, all my Zoom appointments, look at all that that I record, I just dump it in there. The podcast is right there, and so on and so on. So, but
And imagine over time, give it a couple of years, you're gonna start to get full.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's when you get to that when you get to that problem over a couple of years, that's when you get, how do they call them? I forgot how they call them, but there's
Blade servers or whatever.
it's not a server like we understand a server. It's like a mini server. So what happens is you can have up to 2 or 4 or 6 hard drives all in this box.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, Max got one off of their website, which I looked at just for giggles.
a RAID. So you can set up a RAID. And I think the maximum size that you can get for a hard drive is 12 terabytes. So you can have, let's say you can have 4. So that's 24, that's 48 terabytes, right? So you can make it as big as you want to, as small as you want to, and you can exchange them and you can, they back themselves up. So you can just work with 2 and use the 2 as backup. So there's different ways that you can configure your RAID, but those are the guys that really do this for a living.
Professionally, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm still far away from getting there, but yeah, I mean, eventually you got so much data that eventually you get there.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, ultimately, as a company, I think what we're envisioning is not a linear expansion, but a geometric or exponential expansion. And I think we may get there sooner than we think, but that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, at that point, that's when you you're calling Amazon Web Services, and they just have everything up there, and you're paying, just for the space, because that's what they do, right? Like with big companies, and they have this gazillions amount of data. Well, most companies don't have their own service anymore. You just hire Amazon for cents on the dollar,
or whomever, one of the big 3 or big 4 companies.
Yeah, and that's where they put everything. So as far as editing, so a couple of things. So the first thing you gotta import
files. Yeah,
this is the one I gotta work on today. So the first thing is that I import. So you go to this arrow right here, and you can copy the file you want to bring in. In this case, I already have it, but if you go to your let me move that. So I can go to my desktop, or I can go to my file and then find the file I want to import, which is my Apple ProRes and my big audio file, and then I can bring both in. In this scenario, I already have them here. So from here, then I can drag them. Now notice how the video file has its own audio, and then I can drag this guy here.
If it'll let you, there you go.
Right. So I have 2. So they're not together.
So, 1, 2. I need to record, and now I got.
See, so that's why I do the lab thing, because then I can find that signal, and then I can make them match.
Here we go. Okay. So 1, 2. I need to record, and now.
So that's the video right there, and then probably the audio.
All demographics. Okay.
Oh, it's gonna be all the way out here. I think it's that guy.
Thank you for joining us today.
So it's all the way out here. So then I had to bring them together and make them match. But there's a second problem of doing things this way. There's something called audio drift. Even though I make them match, because the video is going at 30 frames per second. Actually, let me check. I don't even know. So if I go to my demographics video, once I expand it to ProRes, this is going at 59.9 frames per second, almost 60, right? But the audio that we recorded that we recorded from Zoom is only going at 24 frames per second. So what's going to happen is the audio and the video, they're going to start to drift apart, right? So so you're going to start noticing. So I don't turn off this audio from the video until everything is done, because it helps me match up everything really easy. It just takes paying attention. It's not that hard to do. So if I go to my video that is done, you'll see what I mean. So now at this point, I already remove the audio that came with the video to make the file smaller, and I perfectly match the audio that I recorded from Zoom into the file.
Thank you for watching our video. Today we're gonna.
So you look at my mouse.
Start a video series of the.
It matches perfectly. But what happens is the audio starts to drift the longer the time passes.
Yeah.
So what I have to do, and you won't notice anymore because I already make it work.
Insurance. So I would like to start with you, Scoba, today.
So you cannot notice anymore. But once I go to Scoba, because Scoba is far away, I'm going through the internet, there's gonna be he's behind. So you're gonna notice that the audio is completely go out of whack. So you see what how the audio and the video split.
Mm-hmm.
So I split and then I match his audio.
Okay.
And you probably won't have that problem because it's just you or well, actually it's you and the other person. So you're gonna have to split whenever everyone and when somebody comes into the conversation.
Do people have life insurance?
Well, life insurance at its core is about,
So you see, it matches now, but this I already cut it. But this guy was actually longer, so those 0.8 or 1 full second messes everything up. So you gotta cut it, make a match again, and then keep going. So that's why you don't want to get rid of the audio that came with the video until you're done, because then once they're matched, then you're good to go.
Okay.
That's a little time consuming, but like with them, I already told them to not talk over each other, so each take its turn. So it's really easy for me just to cut and paste. So because if they start talking over each other, then it looks weird. So in this case, it's already they already
Your
understand that.
family against the loss of your
Okay. So yeah, so that's just the only time consuming part. So I import videos, I make the audio match. Once the audio is matched and the video is matched, then I start playing with the titles. So that's this thing right here, right? These purple boxes. I don't have a policy necessarily for it. Obviously I want them to know their names and stuff. So when they come into, I put my name in there and who I am. Kind of like a professional video. There is this button here, right settings. So here's where you check, like I wanna do the editing on a 4K. So this has to be 4K. So whatever file you import first in the timeline, if it's a 1080, this is gonna be changed to 1080. If it's 720, this is gonna change to 720. And then when you export it, then you get to choose. You cannot export a 720 into 4K. You got to start 4K if you want to export 4K. You could do that in Final Cut Pro, but you can't do that on iMovie. So you just got to make sure that if you want to export 1080 or 4K, this has to match. Now, if I have 4K and I want to export into 1080, then you could do that. You can always go down, but you cannot go up.
Okay.
So something to remember. Yeah, audio match, that's it. Obviously, I import all the files that I know I'm going to use. I have pictures in my video. I don't know if you watch it at all, but I have a bunch of stuff, transitions and things like that. So here's where you have the titles.
Yeah, I don't remember some of the images, so I probably didn't watch this one yet.
No, I put this on Slack on Friday, and it went into it was published on Friday at 11. So if you go to the YouTube channel, it'll be there. But I just like to add a little flair, because sometimes if it's just the people talking, it can get boring. So obviously I don't want to spend too much time making it too entertaining. But for example, here it's always talking about families and
protection
stuff.
for your family against the loss of your income due to an early demise. So,
right. So what all you do is you drag this into the editing area.
Yeah,
Then you have a bunch of options of what you can do.
Yeah.
Right. So when you click this button right there, you can crop it and make the zoom thing. It's just a matter of you playing with it. Let me see if I have anything else coming up. Let me make the timeline smaller. Oh, there you go.
That people use of permanent insurance versus term, which is renting versus owning. Tell us more about that analogy of renting versus owning. What does that mean?
Now, because the image is really bright and I don't want to, it looks good enough like that way. I don't want to change it. I'm adding a black background. So the white letters pop up.
Is this idea of buying term and investing the difference, right? So Sonia, when it comes
to depending on the video that you have on the background, you can do a trick like that to make it look easier to read, right? If it's just white against white, then the person won't be able to see it really well. So again, that's just part of your editing when you're doing it. That's one of the things that I add.
Is there a gray option? I presume that there would be in case you have like one person's screen's really light, one screen's really dark, and then obviously if you tried to go one versus the other, so light background and then dark type or dark type and light background, if it's contrasted over something else that's kind of split, it would look weird.
Yeah, I mean, here you have all the backgrounds you can just drag into it.
Okay, so yeah, they do have a gray anyway.
At different colors, you have different things you can drag on. And then obviously it gets darker. Now, the reason why it kind of doesn't go dark right away, it goes in.
Yeah,
So when you click on it, I have this option right here, and that's the fade. So I added the fade.
So a half second.
And then how dark you want, that's the opacity. So you can make it really light or really dark. So that's it. So in that
Buying
case,
term and investing the difference, right? So
that's that. Then I have a couple of pictures here down the road with Scuba. Or like, for example, here, you can have pictures, but here I added a video. So you can do that too. You can transition into another video. You can do a cutaway when you have half and half. You can transition completely. You have a couple of options.
And so he's gonna spend close to $127,000 in premiums to be able to have coverage from age 36 all the way to age 86. Now we chose age.
Obviously, with that, I was just listening to the audio. I was typing on the iPad and recording the iPad screen, and then I just drop it. Now, in this case, you see how you had this little one right here? If you want iMovie to automatically do the color grading for you and the shadows and all that, sometimes it is good enough. So I just click on it. If you notice in my actual video, in my actual file, let me move from here. Whoa, it's long.
Yeah. Can zoom out a little bit. Where'd you go?
Oh, I guess I did. Oh, in my audio file, I didn't click on the one because this is already equalized. If I click on that, it's going to try to re-equalize what already equalized, and it's going to sound weird. But if the video is not good enough, you can click on that and it will give you a suggestion of color grading and stuff. In this case, I took it because, you know, I wanted to make it look even better. So usually compare this image. Well, I don't have the zoom file, but if you compare it with the zoom file, it doesn't look that great. Or with the, it looks better than the screen capture. So so if you don't like the way it does it, you can do it manually. So you can go right here and it changes the color grading for you. Let me go back to my other file. So you see how the colors look kind of flat?
Yeah.
If I click on the one, you notice that now it's working on every frame. And Escoba's light in my face got warmer. I don't know if you notice it because again, you're watching the transmission, so it's not as same fidelity. But my face got warmer. The Terrell's face got sharper, and this light right here, instead of just being a blot of light, got warmer. Let me take it off. See if you notice. 1, 2, 3. Put it back. 1, 2, 3. Just the colors got warmer. Now, like I said, if you don't like it, you can click here, and then you can change it. But that's the reason why you want to go into an Apple ProRes file, because if I put the MP4 right here from Zoom and I click on that button, it's almost no change at all because there's not enough data in the file to be able to make those changes. So that's why you get this huge file. And once it's done, then now that you like the color grading, it's great. Now you can start editing it and bring it apart. And once I got the audio going, then I need to start putting my titles, my transitions. Okay, and that's kind of what I do. So once it's done, once I'm done with it, then you go here and then you export the file. So here on the resolution, that's what you choose what you want. So because it is 4K, I can export as 4K, or I can go down to 1080. That'll be your choice. Quality, I always do high. You can go ProRes, so you can say, give me the best quality possible, but like again, it's overkill because these webcams are 720. When I'm using my iPhone, then I wanna sustain that quality. Then I do the mañana. Then I can do that. So if I go to custom, I can change the megabits per second to make it really big, which again, this is your quality, but that's only the source is good enough. So again, if I'm using my iPhone, I'm probably gonna get the best quality possible. In this case, high is more than enough, it's fine. And compression, you can do better quality faster. Again, because there are 720 cameras, it's not gonna make a difference, so I just go faster. And then when you click next, it's gonna create the file. But the file is going to create, and this is the last thing for in regard to this, the file is going to create is going to be an MP4 file.
Mhm.
So once the file is created, I go to QuickTime, I open it. Let's say it was this one, and then I go File, Export as 4K. And you see here, I have a couple of options. I can keep the MP4 or H.264, or I can do an HEVC, the H.265, but it's called HEVC. So HEVC is a smaller file size with the same exact quality. This is an Apple file thing. So you save like 50% of space. So so I export as MP4 H.264. That's what iMovie does, and then I re-encoded one last time into H.265, and that's the final file that I get. So if I go to the final file right here, which is this guy, you'll see right here is an HEVC H.265. 8-bit, which is color graded.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you
30
for
frames per second, 20
watching our
megabits
video.
per second.
Today, we're gonna start a video series of the basics that you need to know to build your financial foundation. So
right now it's kind of dragging itself because I have so many windows open.
Next 12 episodes, we're gonna be.
But that's the way it will work. Actually, I think it's gonna look better if I go to YouTube. Just because I'm doing the Zoom and I have iMovie open, that's dragging my computer. Let me close this.
Stop being broke, sad face. If life was just that easy,
Right?
like, oh my gosh, if somebody told me that, I would have been a gazillionaire years ago.
So this is my lame attempt at trying to do a thumbnail right there.
Mm-hmm.
I figured it out.
Do you download or use that program?
I'm using a program called Fonto. I think the one I told you.
Yeah, I bookmarked that. I'm not gonna download it or pay for it yet because I'm kind of broke right now. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm using that.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for watching our video. Today, we're gonna start a video series of the $1,000 a year.
So
right?
it's 4K.
If you can only get
That's as good as it's gonna
it
look.
will be $30,000 a year that you will.
Well, side note on, but it very relatable is I was reading an article the other day.
Have a waiver of premium.
We kind of have forgotten about it, but it has tremendous amount of value.
Yeah, and my guess is, especially with some.
I always want to show
close with you,
some of the
because I know
picture
you've done a lot
transitions.
of research about historical figures, people that in the past have used these kind of tools that we kind of have forgotten about them, but they've been around for a long, long time.
Yeah, so if you want later, we just watch the whole thing, and then you guys see some of the elements I added through iMovie, and then again you can just have fun with it and just play with it. But by compare that quality with the last iPhone movie that I did, which is... ¿Te dañaron, hermano? ¿Vamos a salir o no? ¿Estás mal o qué? ¿Estás enferma?
For 2020, the deficit has actually reached.
You notice the difference in quality?
Mhm.
I don't know, you'll notice through the Zoom, but when you go to the channel, you can compare this one, which again, this is 4K film, 4K, 30 frames per second versus the screen share. Obviously, this is gonna look better.
$4 trillion, just the annual budget deficit.
So it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the workflow. That's really kind of what I do. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And it's just going to take some time to get used to doing different things, and you know, with the editing, like all the stuff inside of the iMovies, I've sort of got a sense of how to do with some of the basics of stuff. It's just need to play with stuff more and experiment.
Yeah, and if you don't really want to spend a lot of time doing the editing of the voices or blah, just take the Zoom file, drop it into iMovie, and trying to use the color correction to make it look a little better, and make sure that the audio also gets some correction. And if it looks good enough, then you can play on the intro and the outro. That's where you spend your time. Instead of doing all the recording and the thing and then the guitar, blah, 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 everything that I just showed. So that'll be up to you depending on how important that particular video is. But again, the reason why I do it is to try to maximize the quality of the process and obviously the quality of the channel, even though we're using Zoom recording. But if you compare the ones that I'm putting out there with other people that are doing Zooms and stuff, ours look way better.
Mhm.
And that's because I'm doing so many steps.
Yeah. You know, the first video I did, which was the video with Phil on the Prop 19, you know, that one was fairly easy and I didn't really have to do much other than just slap on the intro and outro, which I ripped from another video. And so it was just kind of this one continuous shot because didn't need to do any cuts or edits. And so, you know, without even changing the quality of the video, you know, I think it still turned out okay. But on the other hand, with kind of the one with Terrell and Michelle, I did have to cut out a couple sections or whatever, and it's like, you know, to some extent, there's when somebody says something like they shouldn't, like in Terrell's video, whenever he said basically Ohio National is the parent company of QX Financial. It's like, you can't say that.
Oh, it would be great if that was the case.
Yeah. Well, you know, of course, if we got our sale or exit or whatever, but yeah, I get what you're saying, but yeah, you can't say that. So there was a couple things like that where I had to actually cut out, and it was, you know, kind of lucky that they got back on track and could make the cut in a way that sort of doesn't look really horrible, but anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's the point when you have to remove stuff, then especially if you're gonna use the audio that is embedded in the video, don't split the audio from the video until you're done with the cuts. Because something that you can do is when you have both the audio and the video on the same channel, you can right click and there's an option that says detach audio. And by detaching it, then you can treat the audio independently of the video. So if you want to do some normalization, some equalization within iMovie, you could. But if once you detach it, you cannot reattach it. So do all your cuts, and once you're done with the cuts, then you can detach the audio and then work on the audio. But in that way it won't go out of order, and also it won't drift because it's the same file, and it will save you time. That's another way to do it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and when you look at my my training videos, just to show you last time, the ones that I did for the most recent ones, I'm not done yet, but some of the most recent ones, what I'm recording the screen and my video, I'm using the iPhone for me and the screen recording for what I'm seeing. So I'm using the audio from the iPhone, so that way I don't have to worry about drifting. So it's this one right here, just to show you. It's also 4K, so it's as good as it's gonna look.
All right.
Welcome back to another one of our. So as you can see, I put my camera on top of my monitor, but once I go into the training part, my iPhone looks like a webcam but down here. Specs in their own home or anything like that. So, but with that being said, let's get started. Let's talk about. But I really didn't do it that way. I record both at the same time, and then I did a picture-in-picture effect on iMovie, and I just put myself down there instead of using my 720. So it just gives you a much better. All the do's is a feel. It just gives you a much better quality without me having to deal with the webcam or having to move everything to make it work.
Mhm.
But again, the audio, I'm not using the audio of the screen recording. I'm using the audio of the iPhone because again, the audio of the screen recording was like shh,
Yep.
because of my my fan.
Yep.
It's just the way that works. But you can also, by the way, you can also record, since you have iPad, you can record the screen and the audio of your iPad, and you won't have that hiss because the iPad has no fans. So you're gonna get a much better quality audio as well. So that's another way to do it.
Or of course, if you have a separate microphone rig that's actually a microphone and camera that's separate from your actual device. So you have your device on the opposite side of the room and your microphone and your camera right in front of you.
Yeah, and the reason why I didn't use my microphone, the one that you know here, is because the iPhone is recording me at 30 frames per second, and the screen is going at 60 frames per second. So the audio was going to come out at 60, so I'm going to have audio drift, and I just didn't want to deal with it. And the audio from the iPhone, once I treated it actually came out fine, as you can hear. There's no problem with it. That's it. We get ready, and then we go in. Number 2, trainer and trainee always arrive and walk. You see, I cleaned the bouncing, I integrated it, and it was easy. And you can do that all within the app, or you can do it with iMovie, and it's good enough. I mean, that one just for training, but it's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the videos that I had to do for training I'm doing them this way. Together. All right. Cool. Anything else, sir?
No, I think that's some stuff, and it'll take me a while to get used to that. And